Hi guys, I think we're about live, so welcome to the Webster Report. There's a bit of a change from the guest that I had listed. Kirk Morgan, he's been doing a lot of traveling and he has been doing a lot of work on, as in video blogs and stuff like that. And I think it was going to be touch and go whether he got back, but we arranged for 2:00, so I put it to 2:30, thinking he'd have a bit more time. But he contacted me at 2:05 to say that he's not going to be able to make it, and we're going to have to rearrange. Which it gets a bit awkward because now I've got to wait and see to when I'm available to be able to do it next. So we'll take it from there. But I've managed to poach Jason's other half just for a quick chat, just because I could have come on here, Ed, and chatted some shit about all the stuff that's going on, but I like to be able to bounce it off somebody because this is now it's got to be about conversations now. It can't just be about somebody's opinion. If you've got an opinion, that's fine, it's great, but have something to stand on. Come and talk and be able to debate it. Don't say that's bullshit because you're right, because there's nobody right in this.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take over the last couple of days? Because even this morning, some of the stuff that people are posting, it's unreal. It's just pouring out from everywhere.
As you know, I don't look at mainstream at all, and I mean at all. The only thing I used to watch on mainstream was I used to stick whatever on in the morning just to see if I could catch the weather.
Yeah.
That was it. Now, the last live thing that I've seen on any TV was certainly before I went to, probably while I was in Thailand, but it'll have been on a screen somewhere that I wouldn't have been watching because it was clearly in Thai. But before I went to Thailand, which has got to be 7 or 8 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
No, what was it? March 13. So that's probably the last time I actually saw some mainstream-ish of whatever. And that was probably when I was in the airport waiting to get on a plane. So I literally do not watch. So all I get is either what you guys tell me, what my kids send me, what people send me on Facebook, not Facebook, on WhatsApp, because I don't even have Facebook. So the way what I'm finding at the moment is I've got more and more people who, in the past, have realised that the aid that they used to know doesn't exist anymore, and I've turned into some kind of nutter, and they've steered clear. And
yeah,
I've now got more of those people who just happen at the moment to be sending me a message saying, "Hello, how are you?" Yeah. Which I'm sort of taking to be I wonder what Aid's got to say about all this, but I'm not going to ask him because he might think I'm a nutter like he is. And I've just this morning had a really good conversation with, a guy who, over the past sort of 20 odd years, we've done a lot together that means that we had to spend a lot of time together. So a really, really close friend. But now, since I've started thinking how I do over the past few years, we've not really been in touch that much. And he rang me today to say, "Hello, how are you?" Which is brilliant. Anybody just sort of rings and says, "Hello, Aid, how are you?" I just happen to be thinking of you. It's a bit special, isn't it? Especially when you haven't spoken to him.
Yeah.
And then I tried to have a conversation with him. And he's there saying, people have been to my gigs and they've caught it and then they've gone into hospital and died. And he's feeling quite guilty about that because, and I've gone, whoa, hang on a minute. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I've sent him a couple of videos. And I think now people who in the past would have just either ignored me because they'd realised I'd turned into some kind of nutter, who sounds a bit like David Icke, only worse, because this guy can actually speak to me. I can ignore David Icke. Or, this guy's not the guy I used to know. But even those people now are getting in touch and asking me. And the only thing he can say to people who are just not aware of anything is simply this. What do you know about fractional reserve lending? And they all go, what? And I just say to them, every country in the world relies on the financial system. Without it, nobody can exchange anything. Well, they can, but they don't. So until you understand actually how the monetary system works, you will never, ever understand anything else about anything in the world and how it really works.
Exactly.
So I've sort of sent them, money as debt, tried to explain fractional reserve, etc., etc., etc. And you've just got to hope that in the next couple of days you get a text back saying, oh, I looked at that. Yeah, you might have some, and have you got anything else? And that's really all we can do.
It is.
Because until, and apparently, and I've not seen any of this for myself, they're tearing 5G towers down all over, but I've not seen any of that. Apparently it's not Alabama, where is it? Is it somewhere in America? They've got all these people out on the street saying we're not going to be locked up anymore. I don't know
Ohio.
where. It's where, sorry?
Ohio,
right, okay.
Yeah, and Colorado, they're all out saying that they believe that the rights being stripped back is more dangerous than what this virus is.
Which is exactly true. And that's whether or not you believe that the virus is real or not. The problem that we've got is, like my friend who rang me earlier, he's completely convinced that there is a virus that you can catch, that somehow people who actually came to see him perform in a venue a few weeks ago caught this so-called virus, and one of them was taken into hospital, put on a ventilator, and died. Now, when I tried to explain to him that putting on if you breathe oxygen through an oxygen mask, your lungs have got to create a negative pull. It's like drawing on a cigarette.
Work with it.
Yeah. If that's a positive and this is a negative, your lungs have got to perform a negative action, which your body has to perform. Okay? Your body is in charge of it. And so whatever strength or weakness you've got in your body, the amount of air you get is controlled by you. Now, if the amount of air doesn't have the quantity of oxygen that you need, put a mask of pure oxygen on, you've got to do less work, but it's still the same negative, just like on a cigarette. Once they stick you on a ventilator, they're basically ramming oxygen into you.
Yeah. And
your body's doing nothing. In fact, you're in a coma. Often, 99% of the time, a drug-induced coma. Now, as the way I understand it, if you've got somebody who's got a long-standing medical issue, such as, I don't know, a lung infection that they've had, or some lung condition of whatever type, if you put a lot of those people on a ventilator, then respiratory doctors that I've watched are telling me that will kill them. Now, if you've got a woman who's had a baby and she's in a maternity ward, fine. If you've got a woman who's had an abortion, she could actually be laid in the next bed to a woman who's had a baby. But both of those women could then be laid next to a woman who's just had a miscarriage. So they got 3 women, all on a maternity ward. One's had a baby naturally and loves it. One wishes she'd had a baby naturally and loved it. And the other one had one but chose to dispose of it. Now, they're quite brutal sentences, and it's never, ever that easy. But that could seem to be unkind to put those 3 women on the same hospital ward. Okay? But when you've got somebody who comes into a hospital who's got a pre-existing breathing condition, and round Sheffield and Derbyshire and North Nottinghamshire, where there was an awful lot of mines, there are an awful lot of people like that round here who have got COPD. The guy straight across the road, he's got it. Ambulance has been up and down to his house. I think he was there 4 times the other day.
Yeah.
He's now gone into respite care, which means they've sent him to an hospice to die, basically.
Yeah.
But he's a very poorly man, as I understand it. Now, they wanted to take him in and put him on a COVID ward. Now, if that man's already got some kind of respiratory disorder, that there's a pretty good chance of that if they put him on a ventilator, it would overinflate his lungs and kill him, then he probably don't want to be on a respirator. But if they get him in there, do a test that's got an 80 or 90% chance of being wrong. And let's face it, this so-called coronavirus test that they've got, that the doctor who invented it said, don't use it to test for vaccines because it will give you an 80 or 90% false positive. If you went to your doctor and said, my wife and I'd like to know if we're pregnant, can you do a test? And he said, well, I can, but there's an 80 or 90% chance it'll be wrong, right? You'd think, well, actually, what I'll do instead, I'll go and see my grandma and I'll get her to get a needle on a piece of thread and hang it over my wife's belly and see which way round it spins. You know those old wives' tales? Because at least that's got a fucking 50-50 of being right. And that's what we're up against. This test that they've got, that isn't a test for anything, corona or COVID, it's for genetic material.
Yep.
The doctor that came up with it had genetic material from half a dozen or so of his patients while he was studying whatever he was studying. They'd all got similar symptoms, and the only thing he could find they'd got in common was this genetic material. So he took it out of all of them, okay, and then did this testing. And that's it. Now, at no point was COVID-19 ever been isolated and said that, right, well, now we've isolated it, we're going to put it into a healthy human and to see if they then get the symptoms, and then take their isolated and take that and then put that into another human to see if they then get it. Because that's the 3 stages. And this has been used in medical things since like before 1900, apparently. This thing is like old. This is the golden standard
The principles of it.
for isolating a virus or something, anything. And that's not been done. All they've done is said all these 7 people had got this same genetic material. And that's what people are being tested for. So not only have we got people going into hospitals and dying and being rebadged as corona or COVID virus victims when they probably had an heart attack, died of. Well, we've not only got that, you've also got people who have got some kind of respiratory issue who are probably going to get a false positive of this test that isn't a test. And then because of that, they're going to be put on a respirator, which is going to kill them. Okay. Now, I would call that, sorry, what did they call it in there? If you had one army and another army, and the one happened to be German and the other happened to be, oh, I don't know, Jewish, and then you said we'd kill them all, but this time we won't put them in a concentration camp, we'll just get rid of the oldies instead, you would probably call me cynical.
I'd probably call you a eugenicist.
Yeah. But when you look like, the Gates Foundation, just look into it. Don't just look for yourself. There's enough shit out there about him.
That's my whole point, Ed. It's my whole point that people are saying, I used to get, no, I've got a life. I'm not arsed with all stuff like that. It doesn't affect me. I'm watering my garden. I'm watching Love Island. It doesn't affect, but now all of a sudden,
it does.
We're all banged up. We're all banged up.
Yeah, it does. The mate of mine that I've just been speaking about, and anybody who knows me personally will know exactly who I'm talking about. His wife's a manager for the NHS, and he's a musician. One of his very, very special friends, who's also my friend, is a doctor. And no doubt they'll have been having conversations. I would hope they have. But now all those people have been affected by it. Because, you know, my mate now, all of the income that he used to have was based on people either buying his music or people coming to see him perform live. Most of it, people's coming to see him perform live. He's now got no income. He's got nothing.
Thing is, though, Ed, would your mate have been that upset this time last year when somebody in his crowd caught the flu and died? He wouldn't have even known about it, would he?
Well, I've said to him today, I said, do you know how many people die of flu every year? And he went, no. I said, well, between 500,000 and 850,000 worldwide.
Do you know how many people died of common colds January, February this year?
Go on.
Globally?
Go on.
69,000. 69,000. Less than 3,000 corona deaths in that time. It's bonkers, man. So
it's the virus that's not a virus in a world that isn't how we appear it is. And
upside down, mate.
Yep. And when people who are indoctrinated into the system can't see what's going on, the reason is they actually believe that governments are in control. They believe, and I've just had this conversation not an hour ago, they believe that the government are trying to save them. They believe the government are their friend. Once I kind of tried to get over to him that the World Health Organization are a bunch of liars. It's all paid for by Bill Gates, who's made more money out of implanted viruses in computers during his life than, well, there are probably fucking bricks holding houses up. You know, he's probably about as much money as he's ever had. You know, and when you've got a situation like that and people can't see it, the reason they can't see it, they need to know about the financial system. Because as soon as people understand the financial system, even in its basic form, they then understand, or should understand, that governments are not in charge. And once people realize that there's this level of power above government that they normally see, the conversations that we need to have with them do become a bit easier. But it is it absolutely is a religion. Statism, believing in government, is a religion. They've even got their commandments. This is what you can and can't do. And at the moment, it's not a short list of commandments. It's a fucking long list. But to put it very briefly, you can now do fuck all unless they tell you can.
Well, there's a video out that this girl's done from America, and it's been really well put together how she contrasts everything within the same sentence. So you can't go to work unless you have to. This is the true legislation.
Yeah, I think I got that.
You can't go to work unless you have to. Well, if you're not earning any money, do you have to go to work?
Yeah.
Yes, you have to go. So you go to work and you take your ordinary precautions. But what people are doing is they bang themselves up and now they're grassing on each other. And I don't know at what point I grew up in East Germany, but when you're paying people, the mayor of New York on live television, snitches get stitches normally, but not anymore. In this case, snitches get rewards. So they're now going to pay people. This is the Chinese model that is now going to be coming in. Yep. If people don't get out and put a stop to this, then it'll just roll right over them. But the problem that we've got is people are still self-patrolling each other and saying we can't go out because of this deadly virus, that they're being told from a screen in the corner by media who's I don't know how else to say that they are lying by manipulating these figures. I've seen again locally somebody has died, an 88-year-old fella who had a heart attack, died of COVID-19. So he's rushed into hospital with a heart attack and dies, but he's died of COVID-19. When I put that on the local rags website, people are questioning me. What's my motives? What do you mean by this? Go and fucking look. There's no more people dying than normal. Yet it's being pushed and pushed and pushed. There's empty hospitals everywhere. Yet the odd person will come to me who knows me and say, not where I work. Well,
Yeah.
show me what's happening at your works, because I've got doctor after doctor, nurse after nurse showing me empty hospitals, showing me ventilators that aren't being used because they've got thousands of them.
You see what they've got? Even the COVID wards have got people going in and they're being ill.
Yeah.
Right? But imagine for a minute, and this is how easy compartmentalization works. That was easy for you to say. Yeah, no wooking for us. So let's forget about the world and how that's compartmentalized. Let's just look at a hospital and see how that's compartmentalized. Like all organizations, it's a pyramid within lots of pyramids. So the people at the top don't know why, but somebody from the World Health Organization or high up in the NHS or from the health minister or whatever has sent down some kind of order. Whoever dies, test COVID-19, stick it on the figures. Okay? So all that happens is then the manager who's got that tells the one underneath him, who tells the 3 underneath him, who tells the 8 underneath him, who tells the 50 underneath them, who tells the 5,000 underneath them, who tells the 5 million underneath them. Okay? So all they know is it's come from above. But it's a pyramid. So if you then said, right, forget the top-down bit. Now let's look at each of the bits in the pyramid. If you've got different areas of a hospital and all these different areas are now partly closed down, so the heart attack ward's been kind of almost closed down to next to nothing, and the cancer ward's been almost closed down next to nothing, and I don't know, the drugs counselling ward's been down to next to nothing, and you've got all these wards that are now running on bare minimum. If you then all of a sudden go, fucking hell, everybody else has got COVID-19 because we've done a test, they've all tested positive, and they put them on a ward, of course, you are going to have medical staff who say, fucking hell, loads of people are dying of this because we've got to write it on the death certificate and we've got all these bodies. Now, that particular ward might have more bodies than it's used to, but in the same hospital, it's got fucking less because they're all being branded as COVID-19 or coronavirus. So everybody's coming back with videos showing fuck all happening in hospitals and loads of different doctors coming back and saying, this isn't what you think it is. You can't catch it like we're being told you can. We've got lots and lots of nurses doing videos on something called TikTok that I don't even understand what that is, but apparently it's a thing where you share few-minute videos or whatever.
They're taking a lot of flack at the minute because I've posted a Daily Mail article today because cancer patients who's had the operations cancelled are going mad about it.
I should hope they are as well. Not that I believe in the cancer operations, but, you know, if that's your bag and that's where, you know, that's what your truth tells you at the moment, then my mum had lung cancer. My mum's like a cockroach. She's had motorbike accidents and survived. She's car accidents where she's written cars off and she still survived. She had lung cancer and she still survived. She had a stroke and she still survived. I think when there's this nuclear holocaust that we're probably going to get at some point, there'll be cockroaches and my mum left. Now, she managed to snap the head off her femur just after Christmas. She was locked up for a few weeks. Just got back into going out again, and then she's had to put up with this. Now, she had lung cancer about 4 or 5 years ago, and apparently, don't know, but apparently this radiotherapy that she had was brand new, and it was able to completely isolate just the bit that they needed to attack.
Proton therapy.
It was like this laser thing. I don't know.
It's proton therapy.
Yeah, all I know is that here we are 4 or 5 years later, and she's still supposedly clear. Okay? Now, she's in her 80s, and one day, like all of us, she's going to die of something. Imagine if that was now, and my mum had just been diagnosed with that, and they wanted to give her this thing for lung cancer. They'd be now testing her for this 80 or 90% false positive test. they'd be saying, "Oh, Margaret, we think you've got that. You better come onto this COVID ward." And then what would have happened to her? I don't know. But all I'm saying is, at a different time, like now, my mum could well have come out with a different result. Just because of this ridiculous situation that we've got now. And even if you break it down to its bare bones, we know we're not being told the truth because all the figures are fucked up. Even if we believe their figures, less people are dying now than do normally. So why the fuck are we all locked up? Not only have they locked us up, they've closed things so that there's no need to go out.
Exactly, and you can have it delivered. You can have it delivered, mate.
Yeah,
you can FaceTime and Skype each other, and you can play games with your friends online. No need to go out. No need to reopen pubs
and earn some money and actually socialise, which is what people do. Because we're people, they don't want us to socialise.
That's the social conditioning. They need us all separate now. They need us all separate. That's the only way that they can forcibly push this through. My mum is similar to yours, mate. Cut from tough cloth. She came off a set of ladders, had a compound fracture, a tib and fib. She pushed the bones back into her own leg before she rang a friend, not an ambulance, rang a friend to come round. And when they took her to the hospital and the x-rayed so they could put it in plaster, and they said, well, we're just going to take you straight to plaster because we can't put that leg back together any better than you have, Mrs. Webster. And now this is a woman who ended up, this is why I know hospitals lie, and I've known that they've lied for 20 years. When my mum went to hospital with a perforated ulcer, they operated and the operation was successful. But they couldn't stitch the wound back shut because she contracted MRSA from a guy who was next door but one in beds. When my mum had got MRSA and somebody else, they then isolated the fella into a side room. But my mum then had MRSA, and with COPD and being put on a ventilator, she never recovered. And she died of a perforated ulcer, the operation that went perfectly well. So on a death certificate, it was lied. And I knew then. So to think that doctors could be getting some kind of recompense for putting it down as COVID-19, I know for a fact that Medicare are being awarded $13,000 per diagnosis. And if that diagnosis ends up on a ventilator, they're now getting $39,000. That £39,000 on that ventilator kills that man or woman. That goes down as a COVID-19. It spikes it. The media go, whoa, be scared, and everybody is. And then they all point to Potter's Field, where they're burying bodies. Oh, look at all these coffins they're burying. Yeah, they've done that twice a week for 100 years.
For all the John Does.
For all the John Does. So why are we now panicking? Because you've got drone footage. And you've got a fella who's actually manhandling a box into a grave, a mass grave, on his own. Have you ever felt a dead body? Right? They're quite fucking heavy, you know.
Yeah, dead weight, literally dead weight.
So to think that a man on his own can just go.
Yeah. Let's just go back to your mum for a minute. MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Right. What is it? MRSA. Staph aureus is something that naturally lives in, almost 80-90% of everybody. Basically where you would find mucus. So genitals, nose, eyes, ears, throat. Okay? And it happily lives there. It's one of the many bugs that we've got, just like the bugs that live in our stomach and start to deal with food when we eat it. No different. Okay? So most of us are colonized with MRSA. Why do I know about this? One, I used to work for a chemical company that sold all the hand gels and all the rest of it, so I had to have a bit of an understanding. We used to sell all the stuff from B. Braun, big German company. Sorry, B. Brown. B-R-A-U-N. Whose name does that sound like? Anyway, Von Braun, yeah, him, yeah, or Paperclip, Anyway, and so I used to sell all that stuff. But for those of you who know me, when I've had motorbike accidents, guess who supposedly had MRSA? Me. All it means is methicillin-resistant bug. Okay? Methicillin is like penicillin. Okay? So all it means is this bit of Staph aureus has managed to mutate so that it can survive being bombarded with antibiotics.
Yeah.
That's what it means. Now, when that happens, wherever this thing is on you, won't heal up. So I got a hole that big in my leg, and I mean a hole down bottom of my calf into my ankle.
Yeah.
And it would fucking not heal up. Oh, you've got MRSA. And I said, okay, do a blood test for it. Oh, no, we don't do that. We just swab it. Yeah, I know. That's why 80 or 90% of people test positive for it. Because you don't test the blood for it, you test the swab. Test the blood. And I insisted they do it, and it came back. I wasn't infected, which means it's in your blood. I was colonized with MRSA. Colonized means it's on your body, not in your body. So once they put a silver dressing on my leg, it healed up.
Yeah.
Now, they talk about MRSA like it's some kind of hospital bug or whatever, and that, oh, you're supposed to be tested for MRSA before you go into hospital, then you're tested for MRSA while you're in hospital, and then they test you for MRSA when you leave hospital to find out if you brought it in. Well, 80 or 90% of people are going to have brought it in and are going to infect themselves because they're colonized with it. They then cut the skin, or the skin is cut, and then it gets into the blood. Well, even with a big gaping wound, I didn't have it in my blood. I was only colonized with it. Now, I've got a fucking hole that big.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I'm typical. All I'm saying is MRSA is, again, something that most of us have got on us anyway. It's often not something we catch in hospital. Yet we're all told, oh, it's an hospital infection. Well, you're more likely to get it if you're in hospital because you probably got it on yourself.
She had COPD. She had COPD, and they put her on a ventilator. That's what killed her. But everybody can die of MRSA because that was the big thing at the time.
Yeah, sure.
This is what's getting on me tits now, because I'm seeing virologists who are saying, yeah, I was involved in those SARS vaccination tests, and all our test candidates all showed really good, strong signs of strong antibodies after the vaccination. The trouble is, when they came into contact with the natural flu, they had a hyperimmunity response, which basically meant you was like sending a nuclear assault, as something that you could have pulled a knife on or a gun on. And it was complete overkill. So it was complete. It was like the body was started to defend itself to death, which would class yourself as respiratory trouble. If you then stick that on something that's going to shove air into somebody's body, then you're going to pretty much tire the body out to a point where the body goes, I'm done, I'm fucked. You've done all this wrong. Yet there is no reason for this. There's no, apart from, if you took mainstream media off the TV, nothing would have changed in this life. People would have still gone to work, people have still gone to the pub. But the media and the government being pushed by the media has said, stay in. But the legislation, because it's all consensual, Priti Patel said last week, governed by consent, because it's all consensual, don't go to work unless you have to.
Was that on the telly? Governed by consent?
Yes.
Right, okay. Here's one of my favourites. Well, there's two favourites. Consent of the governed. Right, okay. Just think about the words. Consent. Okay. What does it mean? And then governed. So do I give you my consent, or am I being governed and doing what I'm told to do? Because I can't be both. It's an oxymoron. So consent of the governed is just, it's just bollocks. And the other one is leader of the free world. Whoa, hang on a minute. Is he a leader? Yep. Am I free? Well, I can't be free if I've got a leader. So they come up with all this bullshit on the telly. Oh, consent of the governed and what? There's no such thing. The words that they can speak, and you can sit there nodding your head if you want, but it's nonsense.
But it's the spell, isn't it? People are taking
absolutely the spell.
It's the magic of words.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely that.
If you've seen Matt Hancock the other day, he was talking about poor Ishmael. You know, only 2 days previous, how Matt Hancock didn't know, but 2 days previous, young Ishmael had died in 4 different countries at 4 different times from 4 different types of ailments. But he went, and people are dying. And then
people are dying.
But it was the.
Oh, it's the NLP.
Dramatic pause and the
NLP pause. Yeah.
Are people really buying this? Do people not understand that these are 2-day fucking courses that these people have put on?
Yeah.
To talk to people like that.
It just. Having had this conversation with my mate earlier on, who I love dearly, you know, I mean, and I actually said to him, I know you think I'm a nutter. Right, I know you think I am, and you can use the words conspiracy theorist and whatever. But the reason I want to tell you this, and the reason why I want you to at least waste half an hour of your life watching 3 little videos that I've just sent you, is because I fucking care about you. And that is the only angle, really, that we can come from. Because if we can get enough people to think, hang on a minute, that nutter Aid, or that nutter Webby, or that nutter Jason, or that nutter Mark Shield Destroyer that I've known for a bit. Well, I know, you know, he talks some bollocks, but he sent me this, and all we can do is hope that, because at the moment, I keep looking outside because you think Mark Devlin's fucked off. I am fucking mad. And I'll tell you why. Because every twat on my fucking street who's going to fucking clap, what time is it?
8 o'clock tonight, mate.
4 3/4 hours time, they'll all be there like this. Right? And I'll be stood outside shouting, you're all mentally fucking ill. Because every single one of them people now is directly affecting my life. Up to a few weeks ago, if somebody chose to believe everything that was on the BBC and only ever get their truth from Wikipedia, I don't fucking care. It don't affect me. Doesn't matter what I say to that person, their opinion is never going to change. If I showed them and lined up in front of them 13 families with a printing machine of money, they still wouldn't believe you. Okay? Now, those people have never affected my life before. I've always been able to sit next to them in a pub, sit next to them on a plane and just think, well, you know, okay, your life, you live it. But now it's affecting me. So all we can do is try and actually affect the people that we haven't spoken to for a bit, because all the people who we all speak to all the time, like everybody's in the chat room now, we all know this shit. It's the people who we've kind of lost touch with since we started to think how we now think. They're the people that we need to get to and say to them, look, I know you think I'm a nutter, but just look at this. Please, just waste 10 minutes of your time. I'm going to send you a little video. And send them whichever one you choose that's the easiest one to understand about whatever subject you think might get through to them. That's the only thing we can do. Because what we need to get people to realize is that what you said a few minutes ago, Webby, if you turn off the BBC, turn off your telly, Nothing's actually changed. Apart from less people are dying than normal.
And nobody of natural causes, like Jason pointed out.
Yeah,
Nobody's dying of natural causes.
Yeah.
They're all dying of COVID, and that can be presumed. That is falsifying death certificates legally.
Yeah.
And if you then got a system which is now promoting that if you die of COVID, your body is not released to your family for a funeral. It is gone straight to crematorium. The funeral will be streamed.
Yeah.
And then you may not get a fucking pot of ashes, because they might say that the coronavirus can live in the ashes, even though 80 degrees of heat fucking kills this virus stuff.
Apparently.
Then you've got on top of that the police who can, on presumption, detain you and forcibly quarantine you for 2 weeks. If you show no signs of symptoms, they can still do that because it's their suspicion. So they then put you away for 2 weeks. You don't show any symptoms, but before you leave, you have to have a vaccination. What if that scenario starts to pan out? Is it then that people start going, well, I don't want that vaccination? Or have we really got that many people who are just going to go, give me that vaccination, then I can go to McDonald's?
Up for it because they've now got to the point of somebody do something. You see, when you get people...
This is the... For interrupting, Ed, this is the phase 2 of this lockstep program.
Yeah, it is, because what you'll have now is people are now starting to get pissed off. So they're going out and saying, we're not fucking doing this, wherever it was. Was it Colorado, you said?
Colorado, France, Germany, a few other states in America.
Now, at the moment, all the, let's call them sheep, will be watching the telly tonight going, oh, isn't that terrible? But the sheep will still be the ones, they'll still go get the vaccination. They'll still be lining up for it. Please, somebody do something, because we don't want all this nastiness happening. Please, so if we all have a vaccine, and that's what you'll get. And then what we'll have, what's the biggest way to divide a society? Those that are infected and those that aren't.
And then make everybody else who doesn't show symptoms suspicious.
Yeah. Oh, if you've not got, if you've not had the vaccine, how do you know that the person who's walking down the street, coming the other way, hadn't had it? Ooh, and that's all. That'll be it next. Divide and conquer. Or those that haven't, well, you need your universal credit, right? Okay, yeah, of course you can have a universal credit. Just come and get this thing stuck in your arm, then you can have a universal credit.
Yeah.
And we can sit and talk about all this all day, but what I believe what we've now got to do is start getting to the people who we stopped talking to a while ago because they thought we were a nutter, and just get in touch. And one of them might just say, "Well, hey, Webby, you used to talk about all this shit. Is that what's happening now?"
I had a girl at work who sat me. We were sat in an office. And it was like, she just went, listen, Webby, I know a lot of people say you talk shit, but I'm really interested in your opinion on this. Yeah. And I gave her my opinion, and she went, that's what I think as well. Yeah. I went, so why don't you just say? Yeah. Why don't you just say? Because whilst you're worried about looking like an idiot when you've ridiculed me the best part of 10 years just for saying your gas was free. Yeah. In a debt-based economy, I was ridiculed. People who still can't get their head around the fact that banks don't lend money. If you look at Jimmy as a prime example, banks not lending money, and he got stuck in the rut, or he is stuck in the rut of they make money from nothing. It's not true. You can't print promissory notes without having the backing, without having the collateral. It's fraud. Yeah. I can print promissory notes, but I've got to prove I can pay. Yeah. Well, when the payment is on the backs of the people, you can have, in 2015, you can have £780 million paid to different companies for the NHS, which is privatising, because you're getting private companies to now do the work. So you're slowly privatising by handing out subcontracts. Yep. Then you forgive £13 billion worth of debt for the NHS. Who's the debt owed to? All these companies? Well, that means now the NHS Trust is owned by these private companies. And Captain Tom's just earned him 26 million pure profit from walking around his garden.
Just think about this. Just
hang
think
on,
about
Ed,
this. Sorry,
those people, Captain Tom's family, look at the connections of Captain Tom's family. Look at the trusts and the companies they're linked with. You've got them 26 million of pure profit, and now the NHS are putting a clap line out. Text clap for a fucking £5 donation. Pure profit. When all the debts have been forgiven. Who creates this kind of money? Because that's how the lottery was created. If me and you had said, right, we're going to award £1 million for who wins these lottery numbers, it's £1 a ticket, you would get definitely 1 million people saying, £1 a ticket for £1 million? Oh, I'll have a couple of them. You would have your collateral and profit straight away. So from week one, profit. And then you say, oh, yeah, well, we'll donate to this, we'll donate to that. But we've got to pay this CEO and this deputy CEO and these people who run this. And all of a sudden, all the mates are spread out. They're all living in multiple houses, going on multiple holidays, whilst you're stood in line at a food bank now. What does it take? I had to stop grabbing people by the ears ahead and going, your gas is free, and headbutting at every point.
What does it take? Right, David Icke. Love him, loathe him, believe him, not believe him, don't matter. Right. But if you break it down to the absolute basic of this, the monetary system isn't what you think. If every country is in debt, who do we owe it to? But every company is in debt, including the ones that supply the hospitals, buy the guns, build the tanks, the aeroplanes, everything. And they're in charge of the food, and they're in charge because they own everything, because every company's got a bank loan, even if they don't actually own everything. You know, even if these 13 families don't have shares in everything, they control everything because they control the money.
Well, I had a friend from down Devon, Cornwall, and I was saying I shop locally because I won't go and queue around the car park.
Yeah, me neither.
And because I haven't got a family of 4 or 5 or whatever, I can do that. But there's people in Devon and Cornwall in those more remote areas that rely on tourism that has stopped. All the locals are shut. All the locals are quarantining, so they have to travel to a big supermarket which is open. So Asda and all the big oligarchs who are having all the food shipped in as normal are stating that, yeah, you come to us. So now they have control of the food supply, not necessarily control of the food, but our farmers in this country are paid not to grow. So we're in a very precarious situation right now. And we've never been in this situation, and we've walked straight into it. And out of this comes The Walking Dead in an analogy where this is how we live now.
I am just looking, right, 2 things. I am just looking down a list of Donald Sutherland films, right? Because the one that I can't remember is where at the end of it, he like points to somebody and goes, ah, and I can't remember what it's called, but I think it might be called, what is it you just said?
I don't know, which part?
That name of that film that you just said.
The analogy of...
was it The Walking Dead or something?
Walking Dead, yeah.
But I'm just looking to see what film, and I can't for the life of me remember. It's, you know, it's something like that, or it's The Body Snatchers, or something like that. And you can look at 100 bloody films. I mean, the easy ones are, you know, V for Victory, The Matrix, all the others that we always talk about. But the ones that we ought to be saying to people is the little videos that we all like that are on YouTube where somebody says something about a particular subject. They're the ones that we've got to be sending to the people who we probably don't mix with anymore, but we used to. Because we've got to try and... I hate the word wake people up, but make people aware that actually the first thing you've got to get them to realise is the world is not what it seems. The world is not what you've been told. But actually what you're asking is, You're asking somebody to sit down and allow you to burst the bubble and take away the hands that protect them. Because once you take away what they think is real, it's a very lonely and dangerous place to be. Once you realize that there is nobody who's going to do anything, nobody is going to save you. The people that you thought were going to save you aren't there to save you. They're there to rape and pillage you. The government are not your friend. The monetary system isn't what you think it is. There was one thing that Mark Devlin said the other night, and I wish I'd written it down because it absolutely struck a big chord. And it was something like, if you'd have said to people a few weeks ago that by Easter they wouldn't be going out of the house and they would have to queue around the supermarket car park just to get in, they'd have gone, fuck off, don't be stupid. But here we are.
Voluntarily so, because like I said, the legislation states if you don't have to go to work, don't go.
Yeah, well, thankfully, I ain't got a job to go to anymore, so thanks.
Well, that's the point. So corporations that people work for have taken that on board and said, well, I can work from home, but you can't do that job and you can't do that job, but they need to work in order to pay bills. So it doesn't say you can't ever work. It says if you don't have to work, don't. But that's all it says. So if you own a pub, can you pull a pint and sell it from home? No. So you have to go and open the fucking pub. Start handing disclaimers out. If you want to come here, sign this disclaimer. And I don't know what else to say to people when I'm looking at official statistics and over 80%, more or less over 88% of everybody who gets this virus has a complete recovery.
Well, apparently a lot of people who get it don't even know they've had it.
Mate, if now they've moved the goalposts back to September when it leaked out, it coincides with 3 months, November, December, and January, when we were rife at work with flu. So we've all had it.
Yeah.
Anybody who thinks that you can't survive COVID, you've had it.
You know, if back end
of Christmas, you've had it.
Was it? I can't remember if it was August, September. September. I think it was September into October when I went over to Thailand. And there was a load of people who'd got like a really chesty coffee buggy thing. And I must admit, I came home on the plane and about 20-25% of people were sat there coughing and spluttering and, you know. And, you know, looking back, you think, a load of people had that then. And that was like September, October. And then I know sort of December time, there was all this, you know, everybody saying, God, I've had this bloody cough thing. You know, so whatever it was. But what we do know is, or, well, do we know? What we're being told is, even if you look at all of their official figures, one, they're nowhere near what they said they were going to be. But they could always say, yeah, but if we hadn't have had lockdown, it would have been a lot worse. But to go from 500,000 people might die to the next computer model saying, oh, it might be 20,000. What? Yeah. Nobody questions that? Because people are indoctrinated to believe that what comes out the telly must be right, because otherwise they wouldn't have told us it, because our government love us. They really love us, and they're in control, and they've got our best interests at heart. But if that's what you think, stick your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye, because you're about to get fucked up it.
Well, somebody posted on one of my posts that it's the government should be lending them this money, not the people. and it made me just go.
Yeah, I can remember watching a guy on, I think it was Question Time once, and it was talking about something that the government, that they wanted the government to pay for, but this guy said, "Why have I got to pay that? Why shouldn't the government should be paying it?" And I just looked at the screen and thought, "Where the fuck do you think they get the money from?"
it baffles me. It baffles me how people think.
You know, yeah, it's like, I tell you what made a really good point. If anybody who's watching Raconteurs when we had Bex and Karen on, Karen's actually a pensioner. I know she doesn't look it, but Karen's a pensioner. And people will tell her that she's getting her benefits when she gets her pension. And she says, no. I didn't get that for nothing. I paid into that for years. It's not a benefit.
It's like it's awarded to them, isn't it? That
It's a return of monies that she's actually paid into the system, even though the whole system's a fucking Ponzi scheme. But essentially, that's what it is. And even things like that, you know, that it's a benefit. No, it's not a benefit. You paid into the pot. You know, it's not a benefit. It's not even a right. It's yours. You know, it's another thing with rights. People think that rights are a blank piece of paper. Jason's just put in the chat room, my computer had a virus. Is it now immune? Well, if it come from Bill Gates, then all you need is some antivirus.
He's also said that you're moonlighting.
Moonlighting?
You're moonlighting being on my show.
Do I look like Bruce Willis?
Hey, showing your age there, son.
Yeah, I know. I am.
Anyway, mate, we've done an hour. I really appreciate you coming on. It's like I said, I could have come on and chatted on my own for a bit, but it's nice to have that bit of a bounce back off some people. Like I said, Kirk Morgan, he was meant to be on. He's doing a lot of work with the viral stuff. He's doing a lot of blogs and doing some decent information out. But I don't know if he's just burnt the candle at both ends, but he was a bit getting up late. So hopefully maybe at a later date when we can correspond again, because now I'm going to go into 7 days on at work. So it'll be a bit hit and miss. But I've got a show later on tonight from 7 o'clock. I'll be having a chat with Chrissy Morris, who I've not spoken to since the Raconteurs news fiasco involving Chrissy and Tobley, where we couldn't get anything right other than swear and shout at each other. You know,
okay.
Things have been sorted out since, but
how long ago was that one? I'd forgotten about that.
Oh, that's a while back.
Yeah.
That's a while. We tried to sort some things out. It didn't go well. People took things the wrong way, and then it took months then of chats behind the scenes, and things got sorted out as they always do. Because
of course you do. Look, we've all got egos. We've just got to learn to leave them.
Well, the thing is, back then the egos was flying. I mean, and my ego was still flying back then. It's only through loss that you actually get down to the brass tacks. And you know, Chris has done a fair bit of work, and you know, he's helped people, and he's took a lot of shit while he's been doing that. So he's not been. He's recently come back onto the scene with posts and the odd blog. And it's nice to just catch up with these people. There's quite a few people I'd love to catch up with from years and years ago that have disappeared, but you just can't get hold of them. It's, you know, for whatever reasons they are. But
I think what we've got to do, we've got to start making these connections back again with the people who know what's going on. And excuse me, I need to plug that in. Sorry, and with people who are not. And I think the people who we've lost touch with, like Chrissy Morris, we need to get back in touch with again. And the other thing we need to do is our friends that we used to speak to before we realised how the world worked. We need to be getting in touch with them and not saying, I fucking told you, but saying, look, firstly, are you okay? And then see where it goes. Open the conversation. They got Jason's just put in the chat room, lock up. I don't know if that's some kind of reference to what I said the other night, which was, this isn't called lock up, because, you know, if somebody goes to prison, they're locked up. This is lock down. Down.
But we keep missing the voluntary bit. The voluntary lockdown, and whilst we keep missing the voluntary bit, the voluntary will soon disappear, and people are conditioned to be locked down. And you've got all these empty hospital beds that could be massively filled in phase 2 when there's been mass mandatory vaccinations that have a hyper immune response, perhaps, which means thousands will fucking die then.
Look, the one thing we know is we're not being told the fucking truth.
And that's my point. That's my point. If you haven't got questions, you're not even fucking...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Surely everybody must think, what's going on? And I'm not taking the piss. I'm not taking the piss. I'm really not. I'm really not taking the piss. The people who are not awake, surely they're thinking, well, it used to take me 25 minutes to drive to work. Now it takes me 10. I got a lovely email from a lady in London. And she says she actually went into central London and it's dead. Now, you just... living where I do, I'm kind of in a tiny town or big village or whatever. 7 miles from Rotherham, 7 miles from Sheffield, 7 miles from Chesterfield, 7 miles from Worksop. So I'm kind of in that middly bit, around Junction 31 M1. So I'm kind of rural, but near towns. So I kind of never really think about places like London and Manchester and all the rest of it, all the central places. But, you know, it'd be interesting to get some videos from places like that and actually have a look at them.
Well, John Wedger's been doing a couple of blogs from the rooftop of wherever tower block he's in. And he's talking about that people are just milling about in London as if there's nothing wrong. They're all coming out. But you're not seeing any of that on the media, other than people getting arrested for sitting on park benches and things like that, which, again, it's social testing. That, can we do this? Do you mind if we do this? Oh, you're coming with us. Oh, you're under protest and duress. How very polite, but you're still being arrested.
Yeah.
And then that same person will go, yeah, I was fined. Well, how was you fined? You gave your details. You've signed something.
Yeah.
And if people are willing to do that, that's the consent. Yeah. That is governed by consent. If you are complying, you are consenting.
Yeah.
Somebody's talking about organising protests. If this lockdown doesn't end, protest is legal acceptance. You're not happy about it, so you're protesting it, but you're going to accept it.
Hang on a minute, Webby. You know, just if I can. I know normally I've got my green screen up, but this is actually my wall.
Yeah.
There's the green screen. Look, hung in the ceiling because I've not let it down. All right. And what's it say on my wall? If you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission. In other words, go out anyway.
And the thing is, if you need a license from the government to do something, it's illegal to do it.
Of course it is.
The government can give you a license. Now, are they saying it's illegal to go outside? No, they're not saying it's illegal to go outside yet. They're saying don't go outside unless you have to. Well, do you know what? If you're in danger of either killing yourself or killing family members because you need to get out, get out.
Yeah. My friend
my
mate in Thailand, Mike, if Alicia's listening, Alicia and I both know Mike personally. Mike is just an absolute gentleman, just a top guy. He's 70. If you met him, you'd think you were 50, 45 even. He's an ace bloke, right? And he's open-minded. He's not like you and I are, but he's open-minded. And I can send him as much stuff as I want, and he'll watch it and take it all in, right? And he'll look at it and he'll have an opinion about it. But he still manages to live with his wife and do all the normal stuff. And he is in a bit of a sterile bubble called Thailand. But now apparently they're starting off with, get this, curfew. So now not only is this thing got an 80 or 90% fail rate on this so-called test, we don't know whether you can catch it or not. Anybody with it or without it is being told they've got it and they've died of it. But not only
without symptoms.
Yeah. Now it's fucking nocturnal. It only comes out after 8 at night and between 8 at night and 6 in the morning in Thailand, apparently.
Mate, apparently you can pass it through farts now. I don't know what to say to people anymore, other than what's going across the screen. What's going on?
Going on. Yeah.
It's bonkers. Anyway, mate, thanks for joining me. Like I said, if you want to join us again at 7 o'clock, guys, where I'll be chatting with Chrissy Morris. There may be an extra after-hours show. It depends on the people contacting me who have said they're coming on. So there may be a show after 9 o'clock with some other guests, but we'll play it by ear for now. But thanks again, Aid, for coming on, pal.
Pleasure.
Pleasure as always. Take care, guys. I'll see you all later.
See you later.
Sorry to what?
What's going on?